A very good evening to you and welcome to this evening's episode of The Watchdog. My name is Vuyo Mvoko. It's a Monday, and as we've been doing over the past 5 weeks, it's debate night, and our focus this evening is on the city of Johannesburg, where about 270 seats are up for grabs in these elections. Just to take you through the current situation as things stand, the ANC is the largest party with 122 seats, followed by the DA with 103, the EFF has 30, and the IFP 5. The AIC has 4, and about 7 other parties have 1 councillor each. Now, as per the format we've decided for this particular show, we only take up to 4 parties for the purposes of this debate, which starts right now. Well, let's introduce you to our panelists. Representing the ANC is Councillor Matsidi Somfikwe. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
And representing the DA, hopefully she'll join us in a moment, is Councillor Mpho Palatse. The EFF's chief whip is in the council is Nonhlanhla Radebe, and Alko Ngobese is the provincial secretary of the IFP. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for coming through this evening. To kick us off, I'm going to give each one of you a minute just to very briefly tell us what matters most to you and your party in this election here in Johannesburg.
Thank you very much, Vuyo, to you and to the viewers at home. What matters most for the African National Congress is our continued responsibility of creating a better life for our people. And we are saying in these elections, we are seeking a mandate to ensure that together with our communities, we build better communities. We believe that once we are working together with our communities, we will be able to create and make reality that better life for our communities.
Okay. Nonhlanhla?
Thank you very much, Vuyo. As the EFF, what matters mostly during these elections are our people, our communities are the first priority when it comes to EFF. The EFF commits itself to serving the people, so service delivery is the biggest issue when it comes to this. As you all know, that EFF manifesto was also done through consultation with the people, so everything that you see on the manifesto of the EFF, it's based on the challenges that were given by the people when we're consulting with them. So that's what matters most out of everything with the EFF, are the people that we are serving.
Alko?
Well, for the IFP, Vuyo, it's very good evening, and to your viewers, it's very clear. It's a partnership between ourselves as councillors, as well as the community whom we serve as councillors. If we have that partnership and interaction from time to time, we should be able to make sure that we deliver an adequate service delivery to our communities, to ensure that the money that is allocated to service delivery goes to the people.
Is there a sense, if I may pick up on your last point, from where you sit as the IFP, that monies allocated aren't going where they are supposed to go?
Well, it's widely reported on social media, on media view. Corruption is still the cancer it eats. The corruption in the municipalities is a big problem. The money that is allocated for projects, for street lights, to tar the road, not all of it reaches the destination. Somewhere along the line it gets lost. So that's what the IFP is saying. We need to ensure that we give the service to the people without compromising service delivery.
Nonhlanhla, is it your sense as well that monies aren't going where they are supposed to go?
Yeah, it is true, Vuyo. It's been happening all along in the municipality for the 5 years that we've been there. You will find problems, discrepancies with the reports that were given to us as councillors from the different departments, whereby you see that there is money that is allocated to certain service delivery that is supposed to be allocated to the people. But at the end of the day, people are not benefiting from what they are supposed to benefit on. Take it for example, there is money that was allocated to TRAs and TRUs in terms of housing. People, they were supposed to get service delivery. But what do you see these days? You find those containers that are there. People are expected to live on containers for 243 million that is given as a budget for temporary housing units. But then you find that our people are still living even in tents and other things. So it is true, it is happening. It's not only that. Also with the COVID money, there are a whole lot of issues that we can count on, definitely.
Matsediso, what is your sense?
Look, we probably are in agreement that budgets allocated should be spent for what they should be spent on.
What are they?
As a result, we see the report of the Auditor General that is talking about wasteful expenditure that is in almost billions in the city. As a response to that, Council has approved what we call a disciplinary board that is going to focus on ensuring that people that are found to have not spent the money or spend the money without authority are taken through discipline, and that the board is an independent board from Council or from any other department. It is going to report to Council because we want to deal with that phenomena. Services, money is allocated, should be spent on the money, and up until we see the disciplinary board disciplining people, then we will be able to say we are moving somewhere. We are in agreement that there are reports that are coming in that are indicating that some budget are not spent one way or the other. Could be because there's no capacity to spend those budgets and there's no proper authority given, by senior managers or the city manager himself for people to spend that money. So we are committed, even in our own manifesto, to manage and deal with corruption. Law enforcement must do their job as well. Whether it's proved that corruption has been happening, law enforcement must get in, take those people, then people must be prosecuted.
Well, good evening, Dr. Palata.
Good evening.
Thanks very much for joining us. As you were joining us, we're talking about the issue of corruption. There is a sense among especially the IFP and the EFF that monies and not every cent goes where it is supposed to go. What is your sense as the DA?
Well, definitely. I mean, I've been on the campaign trail for about 62 days now, and regardless of which part of the city it is, you can see corruption. You can see it right before your eyes. I mean, there's areas in the city, for instance, in Kliptown, where people have been using chemical toilets forever, and if you look at what's being paid towards that service versus giving people proper toilets, you can see something just does not add up. There's a lot of that across the city, even with these water tankers where you have people delivering water. It's almost like we incentivize keeping people in bondage so that we can make money out of their misfortune. So there's a lot of that going on in the city. But a lot of the corruption is also at the hands of some contractors. I mean, with illegal connections, for instance, if you talk to residents, they'll tell you that a lot of the people they pay to connect them illegally to the grid are actually qualified contractors, contracted to City Power even. So there's a lot of corruption in the system amongst officials in the city, amongst our contractors. It's across the board. We need to fight corruption structurally, and the DA-led government established the Group Forensic Investigation Services Unit under General Shadrach Sibiya, which continues to be operational today. But we need to do more. So what we're proposing in our manifesto is that we start using more smart systems to eliminate the human element where possible, so that we eliminate corruption where possible, particularly around things like procurement, around things like recruitment. As you know, some CVs just go missing because I've got a certain agenda and there's a certain person that I want to bring in. The more we go smart, the more we'll make it difficult for people to do such things. Of course, we cannot eliminate the human element completely, but at least we can screen out the people that are going to weaken the system and and who are going to make us fail in delivering our mandate.
Matsiriso, I mean, what's the difference between the board you are talking about and what you hope is going to do, and the unit that she's referring to, which has been in existence for a good few years now?
Look, firstly, the unit that she's referring to was actually put together as part of the hired guns that the DA-led administration at that time to target particular people. And I want to comment on the clip-down issue that she's raising as well, if you could allow me.
Please go ahead.
The disciplinary board is going to work hand in hand. That's a brief that we gave to the team at GFIS, that the disciplinary board, its mandate is clear. It comes from National Treasury. It must sort out wasteful and expenditure. The GFIS need to continue doing the forensics that they're doing. Then together they must manage dealing with corruption, malfeasance, and all the things that would be reported to them. So they are going to work together.
But what exactly do you mean when you said they were, hired guns to?
I mean, if you looked
at
to target particular people. If you looked at the reports that were there, I was one of the targeted people, by the way.
Okay.
You know that I gave some instruction to officials when I did not even do that. You know, and when the report is still in limbo even now. You know, so but we crossed the Rubicon. The ANC took over, so GFIS understands what they need to do now, not targeting particular people, as mandated by the former person that ran away. I'm not going to mention by name.
Who's that?
I'm not going to mention by name, Voyo, please. Clip down. Clip down.
I talk about Helen Mashaba here.
You mentioned it, not me. Clip down, and it's a sad state about clip down, and I'm happy that the DA mayoral candidate seems to be having an idea of what needs to happen in clip down, something that was in the books. The ANC-led government before 2016 actually appointed a contractor to do a 10-key project at Cliptown. Then they came in with the person that we just mentioned, and they cancelled that contract. The contract that was meant to make sure that Cliptown has houses, that the sanitation is sorted out, and the people of Cliptown are given dignity and are living in a proper and a beautiful place. The plans were approved by council, but then he came and he said those contractors are friends of the ANC, so the contract must not work.
Very quickly, please, if you could chip in the issue of hired guns, and also why under your leadership, you actually you are responsible, from what she says, for the mess you were pointing out.
Well, I don't agree that GFIS was established to target particular people. I mean, I was at GFIS 3 weeks ago, if not 4 weeks ago, reporting a case of a scam within Joburg Water where people are selling jobs. I've reported many things to GFIS over the years, over the last 5 years, and I'm not aware of any such mandate that certain people must be targeted. I don't know if it's something that happened in dark corners.
Even inadvertently.
I'm not aware of that. It's been a really very efficient and effective unit that the city needed. I think it was long overdue for it to be established, and we will continue to make use of its services. I would like to see it even become more independent of political interference. I'd like to see General Sibia to be able to take cases directly to the NPA or wherever they need to go to without having to bring them before a mayor's office, because that is another loophole where the human element can interfere. I believe that there's hope for that office to really help us root out corruption that's so embedded. If there be any contracts that would have been stopped in our time in office, it would have been as a result of some maladministration or other that was uncovered, through investigations. We would not just willy-nilly decide to put things on hold while people are suffering and in need of services. So that was probably the case even here. There are many such instances where we had to stop things that did not make sense, things that showed that there was catered deployment and so on, because we believe in fairness, and the city is for all, and we believe in diversity and has to represent all its people, and all its people must feel a part of the city and protected by the city.
What has been your role, even from your opposition benches? What have your 35 councillors been doing to stamp out corruption?
There's a lot that we have done as an EFF to stamp out the corruption, in a sense that the EFF also had a motion whereby we're requesting that all the 270 councillors of the city of Johannesburg must go through lifestyle auditing. And the motion was passed in council so that we make sure that whatever that is happening from the councillors, we are able to root out this cancer called corruption. That is why the motion was passed in the EFF, in council, and it went through, but it has not been implemented due to the times. And we're going through COVID, we had to sit at home, have visual meetings and all of that, so it has not been implemented. But we are going to make sure as the EFF that when we go back into council next year, all the EFF councillors that will be representing the EFF must make sure that that motion is implemented. It is not the only motion that was put forward by the EFF. As we also know that as the EFF, we have cardinal pillar number 3, which speaks about abolishment of tenders, which is also another root of the cancer that allows corruption to take place. As Councillor Palatse has also raised it up that if you go through the procurement that is happening, then you will find a lot of discrepancies that is happening there through the procurement of tenders and all those things. But once we start abolishing tenders and then we are able to make sure that the city sustains itself, then we will be able to move forward. Like for instance, right now, it's a mess in the city of Johannesburg, whereby most departments and entities, the directors are acting. They've been acting for 5 years. Then how do you expect people to get service delivery when the directors of entities are in the pockets of certain political parties? Because once you are not permanent, you know that whatever that you do, you are in somebody else's pocket. You will never be independent to be able to bring forth service delivery to our people.
Uncle?
I think what is lacking in the city of Johannesburg and elsewhere is consequence management. Since 2016, there are cases that have been investigated in the city of Johannesburg. People have been earning their salary while sitting at home. Senior managers, for that matter, who were suspended. But there's been an investigation after investigation which does not come to finality. People out there are waiting for service delivery. They don't care who's suspended, who's doing what, but they want to see the service delivery. They want to eradicate the chemical toilets that we are talking about in Klipspruit and elsewhere in the city of Johannesburg. So you start this investigation with no ending. People are still earning their salary, they're sitting at home. Nobody's been fired. Consequence management. If you are caught stealing public money, you must be fired. The city must show you the door. None of these things. I hear the EFF and the DA talking about the good governance. During the Mashaba time, when the EFF was in coalition with Mashaba, some of the candidates who applied for the jobs, who scored number 4 in the interview, such people were hired by Mashaba to say, I want this particular individual. So this thing must come to an end. And as politicians, we need to be fair to the committees out there and say, we want to service you, not our pockets, but the people out there who voted for us into power.
So they're just as responsible for nepotism, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I want us to move on to another issue, electricity. As we speak, I mean, this is the biggest issue in Johannesburg today after the city, raised expectations. The mayor saying you've signed the memorandum of understanding with Eskom, which then meant that City Power was going to, take over the functions, be able to supply people with stable and reliable electricity. And today, of course, we hear a different story after a meeting between City Power and Eskom. Do you know what exactly is happening, Matsidiso?
I definitely do know what's happening there, and there's been, I think, deliberate confusion on the two issues. Firstly, a memorandum was signed with Kelvin Power, with City Power, between the two of them, where the City Power will get additional capacity from Kelvin that will augment into the power that they're giving to the city for City Power to give to its own customers. That's the first one. The second one is a memorandum of understanding with Eskom, the city and Eskom, where we are saying, Vuyo, and I've done a number of interviews on your shows talking about the challenges that communities have in relation to availability of stable power. And we are saying to Eskom, because Eskom is failing to restore and even sort out its own infrastructure that is affecting our communities. We would like to take over the supply of electricity in all the areas that Eskom is supplying. Your Orange Farm, Soweto, Deep Slot, Ivory Park, including Sentin, so that City Power then supplies all the residents of Johannesburg. That means that through that process, we will take over the supply, we'll take over even the meters, and the mayor has been very clear that once we go to Soweto, we are going to prepay the Soweto residents. There is the issue of debt that is said that Soweto is owning, and the other areas, I guess the focus now is too much on Soweto. I don't know why, but everybody's focusing on Soweto. That debt, National Treasury would have to come in assisting the city in sorting out that debt.
Well, that has been written off before. But
that is what Eskom tells us.
I mean,
they're talking about something that happened in 1994. I was still at school then, so I can't agree with them that they did, but it's what they're telling us. So we are inclined to believe them, you know. So we are saying now, when we write off, because part of the engagements over years with Eskom was that they must write off and introduce prepayment so that there is no conventional meters that are given. Because the conventional metering, that is where the problem is, that you consume and pay at the end of the month. And that is where people are not paying. So if I have a prepaid meter, then I will use as per my own consumption. So when we ultimately take over, we will introduce smart meters where communities will do prepayment. Then there is no relationship that we must bill them for electricity. So it's going to take a bit of time, but that is what we want to do. So we are alive to the challenges that are there. And because part of the problems is illegal connections, is tampering of meters and all those types of issues. But also the other issue that we've raised with Eskom is that over time, they haven't improved their own infrastructure. So the infrastructure is actually buckling, you know, under the growth of communities. They are not taking into consideration the fact that people do not afford to pay the electricity. So we want to work with communities in resolving some of those challenges.
Okay, Paul, are you any clearer than me as to what actually happened versus what was promised?
So confusion was created by the mayor himself in saying that the city has adequate capacity to protect residents from stage 1 and 2 of load shedding, which is untrue. And in also saying that Calvin is giving us additional capacity so we will be able to offset load shedding, which is untrue. The deal between the city and Calvin is actually a 20-year contract which is about to expire in November. And what was signed was an extension by 2 years as per the Municipal Finance Management Act, while we're working on a long-term plan. This extension is for continuity. But what is Calvin giving us? We already have a deficit without load shedding. Just to keep our lights on, we already have a deficit. And Calvin has, over the years, been giving us an average of about 180 megawatts per day. And that is the extension. That is what we need to keep our lights on. It's inadequate to offset load shedding. And so it was disingenuous of the mayor to misinform residents and say we've got adequate capacity now to protect you from load shedding and we're going to reject load shedding. It was actually an irresponsible statement by the mayor, and therefore that is why Eskom and City Power came back and said, well, actually load shedding must still continue. That is what happened.
Nonhlanhla, what is your understanding? I'll give you a chance to reply to Matshidiso.
Vuyo, I think it was one of the interviews where I heard the mayor speaking about that, but well, knowing in Johannesburg that we have a problem of the infrastructure on its own, which is not well maintained, we knew that it is not possible. And what Councillor Matshidiso is raising of City Power being able to supply all the members of the city of Johannesburg was one of the motion of the EFF at some point. We raised such a motion about 2 years back in the Council of the City of Johannesburg to say that we need to get rid of the third party ESCOM so that our people are able to get proper services, because what they were raising, it's highly impossible with the infrastructure of ESCOM that is happening. Because if you look at Orange Farm on its own, there are people that have been there, they can't even deal with the issues of the transformers that are in Orange Farm. They've been sitting in Orange Farm in darkness for over 3 years. People do not have electricity in the city of Johannesburg. Then boom, a month before the elections, people are promised that there'll be no load shedding, but yet there are transformers that have not been fixed since then. For 3 years, those people have been sitting in darkness. It is something that it was not doable, it was not possible, but it's not that there is no solution. There is a solution, although this is a long-term solution that we'll need to look at, but it is there. And I'm happy that Councillor Mfiko is raising one of the motions that we raised, although as he was a chairperson, or she was the chairperson of the EISD then, and they said that no, this cannot be implemented, because another problem also is that you may, as small political parties, you may raise issues in council and other issues, but they use numbers and not what the people needs to benefit from. They will use numbers to vote and say, no, we are not going to vote with this one, we'll vote with this one so that it's implemented. Some of the emotions are there. They are supposed to give service delivery to the people, but they're not being implemented to serve the people. Because then you look at it, I will say that these are the motions of the IFP. I will not implement them because it's also in the manifesto of the IFP. I will look like I'm serving the IFP, like how Mashaba was accused of serving the EFF when he is serving the people through the agreement that was there. So those are the things that are happening sometimes at council. It's not, we do not put our people first, but political parties before the people.
Alco, you can't wash your hands off this because you are part of the coalition, aren't you?
No, we are part. In
Yes.
fact, I'm the secretary of the GLU, the Government of Local Unity in the city of Johannesburg. I thought the announcement by the mayor was premature, in a sense.
Did you tell him?
Well, he didn't consult when he was making that announcement.
So you're not consulted, even though you are partners?
No, IFP was not consulted. We all saw it for the first time on news channels to say this is what the mayor is proposing, and I suppose it was a party decision to do that. But I thought we would do a bit of research to sit down with both ESCOM and City Power to ensure that how much capacity do we have before such a pronouncement is made, because once it's made and there's no implementation, it becomes a problem. But coming back to the motion that my colleague from the EF is raising, but once the council has passed the motion, there's what we call a tracking system for implementation. So what is left now is for the EFF and other political party to say on this particular day there was a motion, because once it's adopted by council, it becomes a legal document that needs to be implemented. So for me, I would really hope that going back to the new administration, parties will go back and say, on this date we passed this motion, what happened to it? Because we need to track all the items that were passed by council.
What's the distance to respond to what each one of them has actually leveled?
No. Alco is correct. The council does have a tracking matrix, and it comes to council every quarter for us to check the decisions that council has taken. So he is very correct. But what Nonhlanhla is saying about the electricity, that motion did not go through, because the indication was that it was proposing the takeover, and already we were in motion with the discussions and the decisions taken. The ESCOM board, by the time, has already agreed that the city can take
the bus had left the station.
Bona bayigijimise ibhasi sehambile, you know, and bafuni balinde kanti seyifikile la iyakhona futhi, you know. So that motion did not go through. The one that she spoke about the lifestyle audits, it did go through, and a number of motions that came from the EFF went through. So we just need to track the implementation and ensure that there is implementation. My other point is that it is important for especially serving councillors to read and understand council reports, including the very statements that are issued out. You know, what Councillor Palats is raising on the Kelvin power station, the 20-year thing and the 180 kilowatts, that went to ESCOM. For before, it went to Eskom, then the 180 we got from Eskom, because we had to pay Eskom to access that kilowatts at Kelvin. Now we've removed Eskom. We're dealing directly with Kelvin. And we are saying to Kelvin, we understand you gave us 180, we want more than 180 right now. Before they took over Voyo, we did have a program where we said, and I was the MMC of EISD at the time, and the statement that we issued is that where City Power is giving electricity, we are not going to have load shedding. And we did not have load shedding. We did not. We introduced measures, including smart measures of ensuring that we protect our customers from load shedding. And those happened. Then 2016 happened, they came in and they put that program aside. So part of what we need to do with the Kelvin uptake also is to bring back the smart electricity issues so that we protect our current customers from load shedding. And the mayor issued a statement again today that said we are going to protect our customers from load shedding. We are not going to flinch out of that.
But then it's one thing.
We might be unhappy about it, but we have a responsibility to ensure
that. Well, the statement was a joint statement, which means
there's another one that was issued after that one. That where the mayor is saying we are sticking to us saying our customers.
Going back on what you jointly said with Eskom.
No, we didn't jointly say it with Eskom. The city did not say that with Eskom. It's City Power and Eskom. So the city corrected them because the mayor has made that decision. We have a responsibility for you to make sure that our customers are given constant supply of electricity. And we're not going to negotiate that with anybody.
But then it's one thing to ask that Kelvin gives you more than 180 megawatts. It's another for Kelvin to actually have that capacity to do that, which is an issue that they are raising. And hence, Nonhlanhla was then saying that he was merely electioneering.
No, it's not electioneering. And we won't sign, and the MOU is a legally binding document. You don't sign it just to make a statement. You sign it because you know that whatever agreements and terms that are in that MOU, you will deliver on them. Okay. That is the commitment that we got from Kelvin, and there are penalty clauses in the MOU
in case
they are not able to. We will hold them against it. Again, all of us are saying we need to deal with this type of commitments that are not being done. So we will hold Kelvin accountable if they fail to give us the agreed upon 300 kilowatts.
Okay, we're going to take a quick ad break. This debate about the city of Johannesburg continues in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is the Watchdog, and as it is a Monday, something we've been doing for about 5 weeks now, we do a debate on one of the country's metros. And tonight's focus is on the city of Johannesburg, the largest and richest city in the country. Now, before we went to break, we were talking about the issue of electricity. And what is making Johannesburg's electricity problems even worse is the billing system that everyone has been talking about. It's very problematic, and there seems to be no solution. And so I don't know what your sense is. What is wrong with our billing system? Why is it not being fixed once and for all?
Look, I'm of the opinion that there's nothing wrong with our billing system. We bill every month 1 million bills. So, and I've said that there is always a margin of error that is going to be there, and we must just be able to deal with it. We're seeking to make sure that through our billing and our call centers, including the new portal that we just launched, our customers are able to talk to us, so that as and when you have a assumed wrong bill, you will be able to come and we are going to be able to sort it out. Electricity, I find that there's also a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the tariffing of electricity. our electricity, the tariff will be influenced by what Eskom is getting from NERSA, because we still buy electricity from Eskom. So when we put in our tariff, there will be a bit of a markup on it. Then there's something that is called inclined tariff there, and simply putting it is that the more you use it, the more you pay, for electricity. So for me, we just need to get it right in terms of our own usage and our own timing of buying the electricity. As I'm saying, a million bells, you would get a percentage there that is wrong. So what is important and what we're working at making sure that it's efficient and effective is that when customers come and raise their queries, we respond them in time, and that is where I find that we're not doing really well. But in the last quarter, we've improved on our queries. From about 10,000, we're now sitting at about 4,000 queries that needs to be resolved. So it means that there is good work that is being done. But our customers must talk to us and raise their issues. We just need to improve the response times right off.
No problem with the billing system?
No, there's lots of issues with the billing system. When we came in 2016, we inherited many billing queries. We had about 100,000 queries. In the 3 years that we were in office, we reduced that number to about 9,000. So at a rate of about 90 queries a day, we started clearing the backlog. But we also know that there was a SAP upgrade that was underway that was supposed to help us with our billing issues. We also know that the Zondo Commission then uncovered corruption that was related to how the service provider was contracted that was supposed to do the SAP upgrade, and we know that the service provider has since walked away from the deal. And so currently we don't know, because the program had started and now it looks like things were brought to a halt. We're not sure where we are and what's happening, but there's definitely an issue with billing. I was at MMC Mfiko's office just last week submitting a petition with more than 3,000 signatures of Johannesburg residents saying, please sort out our bills. Our debtors book currently sitting at 36 billion rands. That's 36 billion that's not coming into the coffers of the city. If you look at the broken down state of the city, we need every cent to render services to residents. We can't afford that. So we need to fix our billing and we need to optimize collections so that we can have adequate revenue to service our people. What we also need to tackle, of course, is this culture of non-payment to make sure that there's enough coming in so that everybody is treated fairly. Our ratepayers are also feeling exploited by the city, because the other thing that hikes our tariffs is that we're trying to make up for the deficit that's brought about by people who are consuming without paying. And yes, we're cognizant of people who can't afford to pay, and that's why we've got the expanded social package, which is our indigent database where people can access subsidies on their rates and taxes. But there are so many people that can afford to pay but choose not to, and they put an undue strain on our ratepayers, and that's why we keep on hiking our bills, our tariffs. But definitely there's huge issues with the billing system in the city.
Notandla, yes, no? There's a problem with the billing system?
Yes, Vuyo. There is a problem with the billing system. We've also been approached by community members where they are having problems with the billing system, whether there is an error or they are overcharged and all of that. And most of the time you'll find that they do not know how they get billed and all of that. They will want the city to tell them, how did we get this bill and all of that. There is a problem of the billing system. But also what Councillor Palazza is touching on people that qualify for ESPs and other benefits and all. How many people in the city of Johannesburg, the indigent people that are supposed to be registered with ESP, know about the ESP that is inexistent in the city of Johannesburg?
But you are all councillors, shouldn't you be informing residents? Shouldn't be doing your work?
But also the system that is used to inform residents. For somebody who stays in an informal settlement that depends on SMS or maybe someone does not use our smartphones and all of that, they do not know of such things because they are advertised on the websites and all the other things. It's very difficult also to call community meetings because we're faced with the pandemic of COVID. It's very difficult to call your community meetings and other stuff, but still we are saying that we need to work more on teaching our people about all these services and the benefits that are there, because the ESP is there, but how many people that lives in informal settlements or somewhere in Soweto that do not know that they have to register with an ESP so that they get certain benefits of electricity, or whether it's food parcels or whatever that they get benefits from? There is a limited number of people that know of such issues. But also I do not know. The problems of building are there, and we do not know how far it is. Before, yes, it was happening. We know that people are still going through, but lots of people still are not getting proper assistance from the Cooperation Center that is supposed to be assisting them with the billing. It is not happening. So we do not know whether it was halted due to COVID or what is happening, but the problem is still there and still needs to be fixed. And we cannot speak on behalf of the people that are living in informal settlements because they need electricity. It is the basic need and all of that. And when I see that my neighbor has electricity, or there is a wire of Eskom or City Power that is running past by, and I'm living in the darkness, and those people have been living in squatter camps for over 20 years. There is no service delivery, which is also one of the issues that we need to look at. We need to formalize these informal settlements so that people are able to get service delivery. If we put prepaid meters for the people that are willing to pay, this will reduce also the number of people that are getting electricity for free, which Councillor Palazzo is saying that they do not want to pay. But how do you know? Because even the ESP database that is there, it's not being used to check who qualifies to get electricity and who does not.
I'll give you the last word on the billing issue. What do you think needs to happen? How do we fix it?
Now, for me, there are just three issues. So you need to have a call center that functions. When somebody picks up a phone and he says, I have this query, there is enough personnel with capacity, they will be able to respond promptly to the issue that's been raised. Secondly, we need to separate the people who cannot afford to pay for electricity, like your indigent, your pensioners, people, and have their own category to say these are the indigenous people, so that when you give your kilowatts to those people, we are able, and those that can afford to pay for electricity. So for me, those are the three very, very crucial issues that we need to tackle as the city of Johannesburg.
So last Friday, the mayor went to Marlborough and found a house that had 46 shacks in 1 yard. And I'm sure there are many places, perhaps to a much lesser extent, throughout the city that have those kinds of things which shouldn't happen. He gave, I think, JMPD 7 days within which to demolish that and all of that. But my view is that, I mean, without looking at why the situation is like that and coming up with a proper plan to actually deal with such issues, it's I don't know if that exercise is going to help at all. As the ANC, what do you think is the solution to the city's housing issue?
Firstly, on just to probably give proper context to the Marlborough visit that the mayor undertook, I was part of it. The 7 days stems from the fact that the neighborhood is complaining about those houses. Number one. Number two is that it's not you said 47. It's not 47.
It's 46.
It's not even. It's I think 10 shacks in the yard. Out of the 10 shacks that are there, 3 of them were found to be South Africans, and the 7 are not South Africans. So we engaged with Home Affairs so that they can come and take those people away.
Don't forget about the numbers. I mean, that situation
it's bad, and it puts pressure on the infrastructure. That's one. Two is that where you have genuine and South Africans staying in there, some oldies are saying, but these are my children. We don't have houses. We need to make sure that they do get services. A decision that we've taken is that because of what Councillor Khadebe was saying on the pressure on the services given, is that we get each house to be metered so that they can sort out their own billing issues and consumption issues. The need for housing, yes, it is big, and unfortunately we don't have adequate land in Joburg to continue building houses.
But has the city released the land that it has?
That is where we're going. We had a discussion with the Premier today that on the land that we have, we need to give people site and service stands so that they're able to build for themselves. But encouragement would be where we are building as government, you go up, because we can't go parallel anymore or level up anymore because we don't have adequate land. So it's something that I know at the time we did have community engagements, just saying to communities, we are running out of land to build houses, can we go up? And there was a bit of resistance. So I hope that the MMC for Housing will pick up that discussion and proceed with engaging communities. It is important that we house our communities, but with no available land, it's going to be a challenge, you know.
Paul, I'm keen to understand or know what the DA's understanding is of how the largest and richest city in this country continues to, you know, reproduce this one of the highest spatial inequalities in the land. What is your understanding of what lies at the core of this problem?
Well, the DA understands it very well, and that's why if you look at our national manifesto for local government, we talk of densification of sparsely populated areas. We recognize that with urban sprawl, people occupy land that is far away from opportunities, and so we exacerbate poverty. It doesn't help, and that's why we are against land invasion that's uncontrolled. And we would like the planning department of the city to take the lead as to how development should happen, taking into consideration all these interests, you know, economic growth, the empowerment and social mobility of the poor. And what we understand is that when the poor live amongst themselves, the chances of social mobility are limited. But as soon as they move into spaces where they can network with other socioeconomic groupings, then their social mobility is better facilitated. And that's why we speak of, I mean, the nodal review was approved in our time, even though there has been some pushback from some ratepayers, which is founded because what we did not do, and we will be reviewing it when we come back, is that we did not take into consideration the infrastructure needs when you densify. So you've got an area that's already having outages, water outages, electricity outages, because Councillor Mfiko spoke about broken down infrastructure, ESCOM infrastructure, but City Power has the same. You know, in the 22 years of ANC government, they never invested in infrastructure maintenance or repairs or upgrades. And so we've got huge infrastructure backlogs in the city across the board, water infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, sewer, and even our roads. And so we need to be realistic and say, okay, here's a sparsely populated area. What does the infrastructure look like? What is the capacity, and how can we densify? And how do we need to beef up this capacity so that we densify better with the support infrastructure available? There are other things to consider, social amenities, schools, etc. And so our densification plan, as per the nodal review that went through council, had loopholes that we have since identified. But there is a recognition of the need for redress. There's a recognition that we do need to densify. People need to be closer to opportunities as opposed to being in the outskirts of the city where there's transport challenges. PRASA has let us down. Our trains are not moving anymore. People can't access opportunities. We don't want people spending all their earnings on transport.
But the elites don't want these people you're talking about next to them.
It's not true. So I've been campaigning. I've campaigned everywhere in the city. I've spoken to ratepayers and I've spoken to people in informal settlements. And the only criticism of the nodal review that I've heard was exactly what I'm raising. Can we sort out the supportive, the supportive infrastructure, the supportive amenities? Can we make sure that the plan is comprehensive? Because as it is, the infrastructure is failing with the current population, and we're just densifying without taking into consideration those challenges. And these are people who are paying and they expect to get value for money. I don't think it's unreasonable to say, have a comprehensive plan, you know, so that we can do things properly and we're not negatively affected.
You're in favor of invasions, aren't you?
We do not call it invasions.
Okay.
Elite people might call it invasion, but the backlog in the city of Joburg, the backlog of housing in the city of Joburg, it's a very challenging situation, and it is still our theme. Now it was land and jobs. Now it's land and jobs. Manji. We are not apologetic about the issue of land. The reason there is a backlog is because Councillor Mfiko is now speaking about trying to get the audit back. This is what we've been saying as the EFF since we arrived in that Joburg metro, to say that we need to do a land audit within our jurisdiction. Once we know who owns the land and so forth, then we are able to distribute land equally to the people. so that we deal with the backlog of housing. Once you do not have land, how are you going to be able to provide houses to the people? Vuyo, there are people in the city of Johannesburg who do not expect RDPs. People in the city of Johannesburg, they are expropriating land, not invading land. They're expropriating the land that belongs to them because they feel that they can build their own houses in that land. So it is not something that is not, they are showing to the government to say that this is what we want. Because you are not giving it to us, we are going to take it and sit there. Some of these places, they are just idling land, which produces crime, rape, people are being marked in these places and all of that. But because as a municipality, we do not want to do the proper audit of the land that we have so that we know which land is there and which land does not belong to us. This is where we must start. We must start doing the audit so that we are able to know, and then we allocate our people accordingly. Then you give people short to medium term time to be able to build those houses. The only thing that they need there are a service delivery, service stands, you put water, you put electricity, you put your roads and other things.
Alco?
It's the first time I hear about a land invasion not being a land invasion, but we learn. But we learn every day. I'm the chairperson of human settlement in the city of Ekurhuleni. The issue of land invasion is a problem. It's not only South Africans who are invading the land. It's people, undocumented foreign nationals are invading our land. And I'm surprised that the EFF talks but it's a very sensitive issue. The Department of Housing in the city of Johannesburg falls under the IFP MMC Mabaso. Since 2019 up to date, he has issued more than 7,000 title deeds to the communities out there that's been lying somewhere in the offices. And we said as an IFP, make sure that people out there, the right beneficiaries, do receive their title deeds. Now, the city planning, they are still planning like the apartheid used to plan. They are putting our people in the periphery, away from the job opportunities. Somebody from Orange Farm, right at the end of Johannesburg.
So what needs to happen?
They are
want to restate
right in the inner city of Johannesburg. There are hijacked buildings. They are hijacked buildings. We need, the city must identify those buildings, ensure that we renovate them, we make them a low-cost housing so that we can accommodate people next to their job opportunities where they work.
Okay, we've seriously run out of time, but I have to ask you this because you would have seen reports this past weekend based on the latest poll commissioned by News 24. ANC unlikely to win a majority in Johannesburg. Your Joburg support could fall to 41% if half of eligible voters turn out on the November 1. You had 45% in 2016. What are you going to do?
Look, we're currently ramping up our campaign. We had the president.
But if the voters in the end give you, a coalition, don't give you the majority that you want, what's going to happen? What are you going to do?
If the voters give us a coalition.
If the voters don't give you the majority, what are you going to do? Outright?
We'll obviously seek coalition partners if that's the case.
But do you want
the DA? The DA, no.
Why not?
The DA is anti-black. They've changed all the black programs that we wanted. Even the encouragement of the land invasions was done through the DA.
Okay.
Even changing, in fact, what Mpo is talking about, now I'm actually surprised that they're talking about de-densification of the city. We had the Corridors of Freedom program. That was meant to do exactly this de-densification. Now they've stolen the ANC idea and called it a different name.
So things aren't looking good for you either. You are likely to get 25% according to this poll from 38% in 2016.
I'm not saying de-densification, actually I said densification, so it's different, it's the other way around. Yes. So polls change every day. We still have a week, and our own internal polls show a big jump from last week to now. So it's a bit too early to say, what News 24 publishes, what's going to be. However, should that remain and should that become the picture, the Democratic Alliance has been very clear that we will enter into coalitions.
Except with those ones, with
yes,
the EFF.
Not with the EFF, on the basis that our values and principles are not aligned. We've been there before,
Are
and
it
we saw
values
what
and principles,
happened.
or is it disagreements? Was they to both the IFP and the EFF felt that you didn't regard them as partners? That's why they voted with someone else.
A good example is the land invasions that we've been discussing. I mean, you saying it was the DA and the EFF. It was not the DA and the EFF. It was the DA mayor and the EFF, and that was the bone of contention between the mayor and his caucus, and hence his resignation.
Doesn't the mayor have a mandate of the party?
No, but we all know what happened. Let's not play like we don't know what happened.
The DA.
He was appointed by the DA, but he ended up working with the EFF. The DA was in disagreement, and so there are things that the EFF wanted to drive through the mayor by capturing him. The DA was opposed to that, and hence the collapse of that government. Okay. Now the DA wants to stay true to its values and principles. We don't want to find ourselves pushing for land invasions tomorrow. It's not who we are. Okay. And that is why we're not going to enter into any coalition that's going to compromise us.
Who you go with? What do you go with? Between the two? Who do you prepare? Quickly, my producer's going to kill me. We've run out of time.
No.
Yeah,
Can I be protected? Thank you.
Protected, quickly.
Yes, with the EFF, we've never been in collision with any political party, and it was just an agreement of.
But at crucial times, you've given either party what they needed.
Even now, we know that we'll grow as an organization, but we do not want to say whether we are going to go into collision with the ANC, the IFP, or whatever. When that time comes, we'll cross that bridge.
But you're always happy. You always strike some arrangement. You're fine.
Definitely.
That's why we're going to leave it. Apologies for being so fresh in the last couple of minutes. And that's our program for this evening. To join us again tomorrow. Special thanks to our panelists for this evening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.